Right, let me just see how this goes. These are not human generated, these are computer generated. But these are elementary exercises, so it should be fine. And it does this. Okay. Okay, can write on it now. That's fine. And there. All right. For each expression, construct a complete truth table using the variable p. Remember that for one variable, the truth table has two rows, one where p is true and one where p is false. Fill in the column for the expression under each truth value of p. Okay, so this is the negation of p or not p. Unless I write in, use different color. Use red. Blue. Not p is the same, is logically equivalent to p. So I write tf. Not p and p. Now, what's the order of precedence? I mean, is it this? Negation takes highest precedence. It's actually this. So what is not p and p? That's a tautology. It's always true. No, wait. Beg your pardon. It's a contradiction. It's never true. It's never true. You can't have p and not p. Okay. Not p or p, that's a tautology. One of those has to be true. As for p implies p, well, like I say, this is just a test. I'm going to look at the truth table for what implies. TTFT, isn't it? No, wrong. Right, logical implication is false. The premise is true, and the consequent is false. That's when it was. TFTT. Okay. So, in this case, that's true. I mean, just use your thinking. Of course, a statement implies itself. And yes, a statement is logically equivalent to itself. And, well, that's when they're both true. That's going to be false. And our statement. Truth implies false. That is false. All right, okay. Now, okay, true. True, false, false, false. Yes. Okay, the first 5 are correct. Then we get true, 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 false. True, 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 false. True, false, true, true. And false, true. Alright, the next 5 are correct. True, false. True, true. True, false. False, true, false, true. Okay, brilliant. Right, now these. True or true? Oh, that's true, and not true is false. False or false is false, and not false is true. True implies true is true, and not true is false. False implies false is true, and not true is false. Say this. True is logically equivalent to true. Yeah, okay. True on the inside, not true. If and only if false, well, that's true. Not true is false. This is P and not P. That's the alternance. So putting in true there, so that would be true and false, which is false, or false and true, which is also false. And now, true or false. True or false is true, and false or true is true. Now to check these. Okay, good. Now, order of precedence, negation over implication. So what is this? So what is this saying here? Not true implies true. That's saying that false implies true, which is actually true. And then this is saying not false implies false, which means that true implies false, which is of course false. This is saying true implies not true. So true implies false. No, that's false. This is saying false implies not true. False implies not false. So false implies true. Well, that's true. Not true is equivalent to Not true is equivalent to true, so false is equivalent to true. False. Not false is equivalent to true. So true is equivalent to false. That's false. And this is the same thing, but the other way around. So a double falsehood. Right? Mm-hmm. And this is by order of precedence. So we go from the inside out. So false or true. Well, that's true. And then not that is false. And then not false. Not false or false. So true or false. Well, that's true. And then not true is false. Okay, the next 5 then. So we have true, 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 false. True, 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 false. False, true, false, false. False, false, and false, false. Okay. All right. This was just testing out this and seeing if it works. And I think it does. And I think it's good. Okay. Right. Just a quick one. See you soon. Bye bye.